I'm going to do this very quickly because I think you probably all may have had experiences with various scans. So I'm just going to show you some pictures, just to highlight a few things. So my thanks to Linda, who is not here today, I think, but she did this slide for me. And essentially, this just really tells you what are the sort of 5 different kind of potentially radiation positive scans that we do to measure whether patients are responding to treatment or not. So it goes from X-ray, which has the least radiation in conjunction with maybe MRIs as well. It's fast, but it gives you the least detail. CT and MRIs are fairly similar because they're looking at anatomical structure. They just look a little bit different. A PET scan is completely different. So a PET scan is used to evaluate breast cancer because it's looking at activity in cells that take up a lot of glucose or sugar. Now, on that point, can I just say, sugar does not feed cancer in such a way that if you ate a bar of Toblerone, you're going to make your cancer grow that much bigger. Every single cell in your body needs glucose, cancer cells and normal cells. It's a very simplistic thing to think of what sugar you put in your mouth is going to find its way through your stomach, through your liver, into your bloodstream, and then go straight into the cancer cell. It won't do that. All right? So yes, glucose does have a higher uptake in rapidly dividing cells, i.e. cancer, but you can't particularly impact on that within a meal because you have something sugary. All right? It is a caution, and certainly in insulin-dependent diabetics and often in oral patients who are on oral hypoglycemics as well, you can't actually do a PET scan because you get injected with a big dose of glucose and there's some concerns. A bone scan is a little bit different to a CAT scan in the sense it's also looking at activity. It's looking at activity within the bones. And one of the most difficult things about bone scans is that if you've broken your bone, like you fell over, broke your leg, and did a bone scan, the break would look incredibly black, incredibly hot, and it's not cancer. So what the bone scan can't differentiate often is what's the cause of the irregularity in that bone? Was it injury? Was it a fracture or a bruise? Or is it cancer itself? So this is a patient. Okay, so on the left is the bone scan, and essentially what I was trying to point out is that little black spot there. So there is uptake in the sternum and also in the upper spine and also the lower spine here. You can see all the little black spots. All right, so we know that this is abnormal. But look at the MRI. That's really abnormal. So this is the same patient, and when you look at the anatomy of the spine, not only can you see the bones, which is these sort of square things here, but this area here, which is all cancer that has eroded the bone and is actually putting pressure on the spinal cord. So you couldn't appreciate any of that when you look at the bone scan. So sometimes when patients ask me, Eileen, why do I have to have this scan and that scan? It's because the scans give us complementary information. CAT scan here, PET scan here. So now I did different cuts, so you'll actually see anatomically they're in different parts. But here's an abnormality, so that is in the right breast, and that's an abnormal area of cancer. And it looks white against a black sort of grey background. This is a PET scan showing glucose uptake there and there. So in a sense, you know where the problem is, and so if that disappears, you know treatment's working. But PET scans aren't very good in terms of measuring how much it's going down by. Whereas a CAT scan, if that halved in size, you say 50% response. You can't do that with this. So it might get smaller in yellow uptake, but you can't actually essentially tell what proportion of the cancer killers. So again, information that is complementary to the investigator. X-ray, CT scan. Again, this is slightly different cuts, but on this chest X-ray, you can see the right lung is okay. You can see kind of a lot of black, which is air in it. Left lung looks completely white, all right? So when you examine the patient, you'll probably be able to tell the difference. But on this X-ray, you know there's something wrong with the left lung, but you're not quite sure whether the left lung is full of fluid or whether the lung is being collapsed down. So when you then go to a CT scan, you can see in actual fact, this was done actually at a different time point to the chest X-ray. So you can actually see there's not a lot of fluid here, but there's a big, huge mass up at the top of the lung. And on a further view of the CT scan, it actually put pressure on the airway to the bottom of the lung, and this whole bottom part of the left lung was completely collapsed. So again, you get different information from an X-ray and a CT.